I'm Catherine Comden, Behavior Program Manager at Willamette Humane Society in Salem, Oregon. Do you have a new puppy, or are you planning on getting one? Do you know the 7 essentials of puppy training? In just a few minutes of prioritized training every day, you can set your puppy up for a lifetime of success, whether you have adopted the puppy of your dreams or if you are a proud puppy foster parent. We'll have some puppies on the show, joining me to teach you easy things that you can do to ensure your puppy grows up with a healthy behavioral foundation on this week's Pets and People. Welcome to Willamette Humane's Pets and People. Today we're talking about Sensible Puppy Start, the puppy curriculum that we teach at the shelter to help puppies get off to a great start with behavioral wellness. So today in the studio we have joining us Sierra and Arrow. And Arrow is a mixed breed foster puppy that Sierra is caring for, and he is 12 weeks old, is that right? And then we have Carrie and Dax is a mixed breed heart puppy. He is 4 months old, so 16 weeks. And then we have Crystal and little Ellie, a little Chihuahua puppy over there, who is a foster puppy. And Crystal is one of our longtime fosters, and I'm so grateful to you for being here as well. So thank you for bringing these puppies. It's interesting that all of these puppies are at the prime stage to get puppy training. It used to be years ago that people would say, oh, you can't train puppies until they're 6 months old. That had a lot to do with the methods that were used in training dogs at that time. Now what we've learned is that if we get off to an early start with puppy training, starting at 8 weeks old, we can get a lot done in a very short amount of time and make the most of those early days. So we're going to be talking about 7 essentials for the puppies that they need to learn. And all of these puppies are different. So the first thing we have to figure out is what's the most important for each of these puppies. When I wrote this Sensible Puppy curriculum several years ago, what I did was I took the shelter relinquishment statistics and figured out why puppies were being surrendered to shelters after they passed out of that sort of cute phase. And so when puppies were hitting between 6 months and 1.5 years old, that's when we saw a very high rate of relinquishments to shelters for behavioral reasons. So I looked at those behavioral reasons and I said, we can fix this with puppy class. So that's what I did. So the very number one priority for all of the puppies, what's the first thing that we're working on in the home? Is usually potty training, housebreaking, right? We have to make sure that the puppies are going to have good success in learning to pee and poop outside. So how are these puppies doing with their house training? Or they're probably all at different levels. Carrie, how's Dax doing?
He's doing pretty well. In our house, he's great, but it's now trying to extend that into other people's homes and other places.
Right, so you've gotten it good at home. And how did you do that at home?
We did some crate training and a localized area that he'd be confined to if he hadn't gone to the bathroom. Then he would have to go back in there and hang out for a while.
Good. Yeah, that's exactly right. We do use crates in training the puppies. Or is each one of you using a crate in some fashion? Not Ellie yet. Okay, so let's talk about that. Is he using a crate in
Yes
his
and
phone
no.
too? Yes and no sometimes. Okay. So I'm a huge advocate of crate training, not only for housebreaking, but so that the puppies can also learn to be alone sometimes, right? They have to learn, part of being a puppy is being confined at times, and part of being a successful adult dog is not being with your people all of the time, so that we can prevent separation anxiety. So really in our efforts to teach puppies how to be, how to learn to go potty outside, if they're going to keep their crate clean, they're also going to learn how to be alone in a crate for a little while, and that's okay. So back to the house training. I know, Crystal, that you had said that little Ellie is pretty solid even at her little 8 weeks old. So why don't you tell us what you did?
Ellie is using one of those green AstroTurf pads with the liner underneath it for outside. And then she's using a potty pad inside. And she is contained in our laundry room when we're leaving with a potty pad.
Okay.
I think part of her success is due to being with our pack of dogs. We have 3 other dogs, one of whom is fairly young also. So we are outside every 2 hours when we're home when she's not in the laundry room. And she is very solid. The trick for her will be transitioning to letting us know when she needs to go outside rather than me taking her outside.
Right, that is an important transition too. So it comes in stages, yeah, where we start to teach the puppy that A, you can go outside, or on the smaller breeds, it is often really useful to have them eliminate on a potty pad because a lot of times they're apartment dwellers who need that. They're on the 5th floor and they work all day and they're just going to need to be able to eliminate in a designated place or an indoor toilet area for the puppy and or adult dog. So that's a great skill for her to have. But I love that they'll also go on cue, and that's really important when you're traveling. So one of the things that I like to say is wherever your puppy goes potty, he gets relief. He's going to feel better. So as far as he's concerned, he can go potty anywhere and get that relief. What we have to do is make it more valuable for him to go potty outside than anywhere else in the house, right? So we want to take some treats out there. We want to take treats, and as soon as he finishes urinating or defecating, he gets 3 little treats right in a row and a lot of praise. When you can determine that he's going to go outside pretty regularly for you, like you're pretty sure he's going to go or you started to see his signals, then you just stand there and wait. And the moment before he starts to eliminate, you say a magic word, go potty. And then you say nothing and you're kind of boring. And what happens then is the dog had to go anyway. And so we're beginning to pair the word, go potty, with the actual behavior, and then he's earning the reward. And so making that transition into other homes is a matter of getting that behavior on cue in your own yard first, so that you can say go potty or hurry up or do your business or whatever you'd like your phrase to be, and then that can transition into another environment. What I'd like to encourage you to do is find different surfaces in your yard or in your, right near your house where the puppy can learn to go potty on cue. So if you've always been taking him to the lawn and he's pretty good there, start to get that cue in place and then transition to a place where it has mulch, or transition to a place where it has concrete or your wood decking, so that the dog learns to go anywhere, any kind of surface on that cue. And then it becomes much more easy to transition to other people's homes. Of course, you're still doing the same prevention strategies, keeping the puppy with you on a leash or confined to a small area. You don't just go over to grandma's house and turn them loose. They can't do that yet. So any new home that they go into, they have to go through a period of transition for that potty training. And we do the same things with adult dogs from the shelter who are going into new homes. Paying them to go outside, they start to learn, oh, that's pretty cool. I think I like actually going outside and going potty because I get more treats out there for that. And so that's a great way to get started. So I think that the number one priority for every puppy personality is that house training. Because let's face it, if they don't stay house trained, they're not going to stay in homes for very long at all. Then what we want to look at is the overall temperament of the dog. And in the curriculum that I use, I have a little quiz that you take coming in to determine your puppy's personality and characteristics. And so as you answer the questions in the quiz, we get to categorize the puppy into color groups. And basically it works out that this puppy is a little shyer, this puppy is a little more social, and maybe this puppy over here is a little more gung-ho and maybe even, so gung-ho that he's holding onto the owner's sleeve when he comes into puppy class. And so each of those personalities have different priorities. For the one puppy, so like for little Ellie here, she is, first of all, she's a teeny tiny baby, but she's a little tiny dog who is maybe carried around a lot and is going to be carried a lot. But when she's on the floor, she has to learn how to be brave. She has to learn how to go into a new place and be confident. So we want to work on confidence building with her and having lots of opportunity for social interaction with a variety of people. Whereas Dax, he is very active and confident, but he doesn't necessarily like being touched. So what we want to do is we want to work on him feeling comfortable being touched. So exam training is going to be a higher priority for him than some of the other priorities like simple manners. The manners, look at him, he's already got, right? He's like, yeah, I know that sit works and I know that lay down works, but I'm not so confident about having people handle me or touch my body. So we would raise that priority for him. And then little Arrow here is a little more on the grabby, bitey side. And what we need to do with him is to get his mouth under control. And so each of the different priorities, and I'll give you a list here. We have socialization, we have self-control, soft mouth, and then we have the E's. We have exam training, enrichment, and etiquette, which is basic manners. So what I'd like to do today, if you're all game, is to teach just one exercise from each of those priorities and just get off to a good start. And then in the class time, you'll get a homework sheet that helps you prioritize. If you only have 10 minutes a day, what is most important for your puppy? Well, you're following your prioritized puppy path through the class, and you're able to know what to work on for that week's lesson. It's true that some veterinarians are still recommending that a puppy complete all of his vaccinations before coming to a group puppy class. And I wanted to share the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behaviorists position statement on early puppy socialization. You can locate this online and share it with your veterinarian. What these veterinary behaviorists have found is that basically vaccinating against behavioral problems down the road is much more important than worrying about any potential for disease risk for puppies in general. And so their recommendation is that the puppies get off to a great start in early puppy class as soon as 8 weeks of age, while they are following their vaccination protocol. As you may or may not know, we vaccinate multiple times so that we can catch that window where the maternal antibodies die off and the puppy's body can respond to the vaccination, and yet we still keep a decreased risk of getting the disease from the environment or from other puppies. So what we do in our puppy classes is that we require that every puppy have been in the home for at least 10 days prior to coming to class so that they're symptom free. There's no sign of any disease in discharge anywhere on their body or diarrhea or vomiting. And then they've had at least one vaccination and that they're continuing their vaccinations, and that they have either a proof of deworming or a proof of a clean fecal sample so that we can ensure that the puppies don't have worms or other parasites that will transmit puppy to puppy. And then we make sure that our facility is really clean. So our facility is deep cleaned every week just prior to puppy class, and we eliminate all of the access to that until puppy class is over, so nobody gets to come into that area. And so the puppies are as safe as we can make it. And what we're finding is that shelters and puppy class instructors all across the country have completed some research surveys. Nobody's getting sick in puppy class across the country, not just at our facility, but all across the country. There are not puppies that are getting sick. It's just not happening. So that means that our protocols are working, our standards are working, and I think we're saving lives. I think we're keeping dogs out of the shelter system because we're keeping them in homes. And so that's what's important about teaching these puppies from an early age. So with that in mind, and talking through some of our 7 essentials, we've covered the house training, and I'd like to start with just a little basic exam training or exam handling. There's a lot of information about how to get your puppy to come and sit and stay, and we have good resources for that as well, but it's more commonly taught. So I'd like to focus on some of the things that maybe you haven't seen in puppy classes. So exam training is really important. Exam training is teaching the puppy that it's okay to be handled all over his body and to be comfortable with it, not just to tolerate it, but to enjoy it. And so I want to start with little Dax here, who I know is a little bit shy about being handling. And I might start with just simply offering a touch and a treat. Hey, buddy, look what I have. Whoa, so suddenly he's all in. So I'm going to offer a touch and a treat, and a touch and a treat, and a touch and a treat. And I see he's even offering me his paw, which is something that's really wonderful. Can I have that paw? Great. So this is going to be no problem to segue this into wiping his muddy paws or doing nail trims. Okay? So then I'm going to pull away the treat, and I'm going to make it more of a consequence of me handling and then the treat. So in the beginning, I might start with just simple luring, where I'm giving the puppy the treat as I'm doing the activity, and then I want him to see that it actually comes as a result of him being patient and quiet while I do that body handling. So that's something that each of you can do on varying levels. So when you have him out and about, and you have people they probably want to reach for his head most often because he's super cute, and I would just go ahead and stop them, hand them a treat, and then tell him that you're training and that to put their hand out, and you could actually target him to their hand. You can teach him to come out and put himself underneath somebody's outreached hand, and that way it's still his choice. And anytime a puppy has the choice and chooses a behavior, it's going to be much more comfortable to do so. Another great behavior for a puppy to learn, especially if they're a small kid, is to go from being passed on from one person to the next person and not panic about it. So these little guys learn to be handled a lot typically, but being passed back and forth is something is a skill that they need to learn. So I want to teach them not to panic. Similar to that is what we call the elevator lift. If I can get little Arrow here. Hey buddy, come you want to play with me? I know, her treats are better. Can I borrow your treats? There you go. Come here, kid. He says, I think there's one on the floor. Go ahead and pick that one up for me. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to take some treats in my hand, and I'm just going to get to know him just a little bit. There you go. See, I'm a nice guy. See if I can pet him. And he says, yeah, that's okay. Good job. There we go. So in picking him up for the elevator lift, what I want to do is support his weight with my dominant hand. Come here, kid. Good job. And I'm going to come across his chest, or over his back, under his chest. And my other hand, if I can have the whole leash, my other hand is going to hold the leash. I'm going to put my thumb right in his collar, and then I'm going to pick him up. And what's going to happen is he might struggle a little bit. I'm going to give him a little belly scratch here. I want to teach him that it's okay to be picked up. It's okay to be restrained. And you can go ahead and give him a little treat there while he's relaxing. Good job, buddy. And then if he's calm, he gets to slide down my leg and go all the way to the floor. And if he's not, then he gets to come back up. So that's the elevator part. There we go. Good job. And I'm going to hold him right here for just one moment, give him a little scratch, and then I'll release him. Okay? You want to try that with Dax?
Sure.
And you can try it, Sierra. And little Ellie too. If you guys want to stand up. And you're going to just give them a little elevator lift. So you're going to pick them up from underneath, thumb in the collar. Yep. And they can get a little treat if they're a little nervous about being held up there. They can get a little treat up front. And then just slide them on down, and if they're calm, they can go all the way to the floor. Perfect. Now I've had some puppies, these puppies all did really well. I've had some puppies kind of freak out about that. So if your puppy, when you're picking up your puppy, if they're backing away and they're having a really hard time with that, slow down, have a friend hand them some treats while you're doing it. Try and take it a little bit easier. So with some puppies, if I can borrow Dax here, and you can feed him, because we know he's a little bit handling sensitive. But the fact is, when he goes to a veterinarian's office, the vet tech is going to do this. They're going to give him a big hug. So you feed him a treat while I hug him. Go ahead and feed him there. And so why not help the puppy learn that this is just what people do, and there's nothing to get freaked out about. If you make it kind of a fun game, then they can really begin to relax about it. It makes your vet visit easier or your groomer visit, and then you don't have as much of a risk as the puppy being uncomfortable. If the puppy's uncomfortable, what might he do? He might bite. And now you're going to go down that path, and he has to wear a muzzle at the vet, and everybody gets stressed, and we just don't need to go there. It's simply just teaching the puppy that being handled is a good thing, and it's nothing to be worried about. So that's really important. Another important exercise that these puppies need to learn is how to play nice with other dogs. So our puppy class includes a doggy playtime. So we want to be careful that when we're introducing the puppies, we don't have any food available to them, so nobody's offering any guarding. May I borrow Arrow for a moment? And that when we're doing our introductions, we're not having the puppies come up on a tight leash. So we're going to have the puppies find each other. Hi, kid. Do you want to come see this puppy? He says, no, I'd really like to stay with Mom. Mom's got all the cookies. What do you think? Oh, there he is. Okay. And so we want him to, normally we would be doing this off leash in the puppy class, but right now we'll just keep it on a real loose leash. We're going to allow them to circle, and that's an appropriate greeting. There we go. And everybody looks pretty comfortable about that. And now we're going to have chaos, and that's okay. Come here, kid. So there they had just a quick little interaction. Nothing wrong with that. Everything was okay. Arrow was a little bit bothered, I think, because I think he's keeping Mom's food in his mind. And so what I'd want to do is I'd make sure that you guys didn't have your treats on. We would go someplace in a room where we can take them completely off leash and allow them to interact. If you have dogs at home and you're integrating a puppy, it's really important to practice what I call senior support. And that is that the resident dog always gets all the good food first, all the good attention first, and is supported. If they say, no, I don't want to play with that puppy, then you physically remove the puppy. You keep the puppy leashed. You give that older dog a break. I don't want the dogs to have to escalate their signals. So if you have one dog who's saying, no thank you, and maybe he's given just a slight head turn and said, wow, the puppy's too much, then you should jump in. If he's growled at the puppy or he's snapped at the puppy, then you're late. You should have jumped in already. Don't punish the growling dog. Never punish growling, whether he's growling at kids or growling at dogs. Don't punish growling, because growling is a message that says, hey, I need space. I need more space. And so it's up to you to help that dog get more space. So if I see growling in class, I simply remove the other dog away from that dog's space and give them the option to choose whether they want to continue that interaction. So we'll pull off the offending puppy and we'll let that puppy who was the supposed victim choose whether they'd like to come back. And usually they do. We try to make a good puppy play match to bring out both size compatibility as well as personality and play style compatibility in our group classes. So that's part of their socialization. It's also part of what we call bite inhibition or soft mouth training. They're going to get more information from how they play with other dogs in the way that they moderate their bite than I'm going to be able to teach them necessarily from my exercises, because as puppies play, they bite. That's part of what play is for dogs. And I want them to learn to bite softly. Another great exercise for that is our leave it exercise. And so what we want to do is teach the puppy pretty quickly that if he leaves what he wants, he gets what he wants. So this doubles as a impulse control exercise or self-control exercise, as well as a soft mouth exercise. If he is biting at my hand here, he's going to get nothing. As soon as he turns away from biting, he's going to get a tasty treat. So I'm going to hold food right out here in front of his face. When he stops biting and he turns away, even for a split second, he's going to get food from the other hand. So I wait till he turns away, he gets food from the other hand. If it drops to the floor, I just let him have it. So pretty quickly what's going to happen, can you get that? Pretty quickly what's going to happen is he's going to start ignoring this one hand that's out here, because this hand is not ever feeding him. Then what I have to do is switch hands, because otherwise what the puppy figures out is, oh, well, you're just not going to ever feed me with that particular hand. So that's not what I want him to learn. I want him to learn that he can actually make me feed him by doing a behavioral choice of leaving that hand that he wanted. Okay, so as he turns his head, I'm feeding him from the other hand. And very quickly then what I can do is I can open up my hand, show him that I have food there, and the puppy is not going to dive for it. He's going to turn his head away. If he were to come forward, I would close my hand like that. And then I'm going to open it up. And as he turns his head away, he gets fed from the opposite hand. Now, if he's wanting to sit or lay down, that's fine, but that's not what this exercise is about. What I really want from him is that he is learning to ignore what he thinks he wants in order to gain something better. Okay? And then we're going to take that whole exercise straight to the floor. So he's going to turn his head away from the thing that he thinks he wants, and I'm going to pay him for that. He's going to turn his head away, and I'm going to pay him. Once I've put food on the floor, I never feed him from the floor. He doesn't get it from there. He only gets it by turning his head away. And so once I've gone through all of those steps, I can start adding the cue. And I think you'd started adding the cue already. Mm-hmm. Is your cue leave it? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so the leave it is simply, I'm going to put it on the floor. I'm going to say leave it, and then I'm going to feed from the other hand. And I'm going to put it on the floor. And when I'm going to predict that he'll leave it, I'll tell him to leave it. If he dives forward, I just cover it over. Leave it. And I'll pay him over here, and then I'll move the treats. Leave it. There we go. And then I'll move the treats. Leave it. And so very quickly they can learn to leave what they want and get something better. Right? Leave it. And I want to pay him really high so he looks up at me. Leave it. Very nicely done. Good job. Sit. Very nice. So leave it is a great exercise to teach your puppy, and you can do it without force. You can do it without hurting them. You're simply shaping. You're choosing to reward the wanted behavior, and leave it really means ignore that, pay attention to me. And so it makes it really easy. Everything seems important when we're training the puppies. There's so much that they have to learn. Of course, the most important thing for every puppy is the house training, as I mentioned, and secondary to that is learning what people do and what people look like for real. One thing that we do in our puppy classes is we have costume day, so that everyone's wearing something a little bit different. I also have socialization checklists so that you can go out and about and find people who are dressed as construction workers or delivery people or little kids running around in Halloween costumes. I mean, you have to find these things because your puppy, your adult dog are going to see them. And if they see them as part of puppyhood, then they become somewhat normal. Make sure that those socialization outings are going well. Never force your puppy into anything that he doesn't want to do. Always pay him for every approach. Pay him for doing well with greeting people properly. And then we have some other issues that sometimes come up as puppies. For example, resource guarding, saying, this is mine, I'm not going to share. And whether that resource guarding is against other dogs in the home or against people, especially children, we want to make sure that we're handling that with a positive training approach. That is, that I'm not going to get into a confrontational debate about it. What I want to be seen by the puppy is I want to be seen as a giver. So simply the trade up exercise. So if we can get little Arrow interested in this toy here. Can you get this toy, buddy? Can you get it? Can you get that toy? If he was interested in the toy, which he's not right now, I simply would pay him for letting me have it. And I would take away the toy and I would give it right back to him. And then I'm going to put my hand on the toy, I'm going to offer a treat, and I will take it away, and I'm going to give it back, and I'm going to pay him for letting me take it. There it is, and there it is again. There's your treat. There it is again. And so most of the time I'm bringing good things to him. You can do the same thing with their food bowls. If you have a food bowl, I always say it's a waste to feed a puppy out of a food bowl because there's so much reward opportunity. Use those treats for training. So every little kibble in his bowl becomes the opportunity for a reward. So if you have a couple hundred of these in every meal, those are potential rewards. So you want to make sure, or maybe a teaspoon of a reward for some of us, but those are potential rewards. That's how you can have a nice behaviorally sound puppy who is not unhealthy, right? Just use his regular food. If he won't take his regular food when you're out on a walk because it doesn't taste good enough, you can always do what I've done here, which is to mix the kibble in with a little bit of sausage or hot dogs or cheese. And he says, yeah, that sounds really good. That's okay. We have a leave it, so we're not worried about that, right? We're going to train a leave it right there. Sure. Because the polite puppy, the good puppy is going to be right over there. So unfortunately, we're about out of time today, but I really enjoyed having each one of you bring your puppies to our little mini class. And I know I'll see some of you back in class soon, and hopefully these other puppies very soon. And so come on down to Willamette Humane Society. We did just get in a whole bunch of transfer puppies, and so some will be coming available soon, and you just might meet your next #1 fan.
Ready? Hi, buddy. Hi, honey.